history is often told through its loudest moments, battles, speeches, and upheavals. Yet, real power often moves quietly, shaping destinies in subtle ways. Theodore Roosevelt, remembered as the Trustbuster, is often seen as a force of destruction against big business. But his true legacy was about control, not chaos. Roosevelt didn't want to destroy capitalism. He wanted to regulate it to ensure it served the public good. He recognized that unchecked power, whether in government or business, threatened the nation's stability. His presidency redefined the relationship between government, corporations, and the people. Roosevelt was no radical. He was a conservative who saw the dangers of both corporate arrogance and social unrest. He acted not to punish the powerful, but to save the system from itself. By asserting government authority, he aimed to prevent chaos and preserve order. Roosevelt's actions set a precedent. The White House would be a steward of the public, not a servant of Wall Street. His story isn't about hating big business, but about making it accountable. For capitalism to survive, it needed rules, and Roosevelt made sure those rules were enforced. This was the quiet, deliberate shift of power back to the people. The legend of Roosevelt as a lone crusader against the trusts is compelling, but incomplete. The real Roosevelt didn't hate big business. He distinguished between good and bad trusts. He saw large corporations as inevitable and often beneficial, but insisted they play by fair rules. His goal wasn't to dismantle the corporate world, but to regulate it for the public interest. Roosevelt's true innovation was establishing the government's right to oversee industry. He wanted to show that the president, representing the people, was more powerful than any corporation. His antitrust actions were strategic, not reckless. He sought to subordinate, not destroy, corporate power. Roosevelt's message to industry leaders was clear. You are citizens, not rulers. He aimed for a new balance, where capitalism's energy was harnessed for the common good. The myth of the trustbuster misses this nuance. Roosevelt's fight was against unaccountable power, not against wealth itself. He set the stage for a government that could guide, and when needed, restrain, the forces of industry. His legacy is the principle that no private interest stands above the public. That's the real story behind the myth. The Gilded Age dazzled with progress, railroads, steel, and booming cities, but beneath the surface, inequality and exploitation festered. Titans like Carnegie and Rockefeller built empires, but their monopolies crushed competition and workers alike. The government's hands-off approach let abuses flourish. Trusts grew so powerful they influenced politics, shaping laws to protect their profits. Workers faced long hours, low pay, and violent suppression when they organized. The gap between rich and poor widened dangerously. The system was productive, but unstable, prone to booms and busts. Public resentment simmered as democracy seemed to give way to corporate rule. The government appeared weak, unable or unwilling to challenge the trusts. America's economic engine was powerful, but it lacked brakes. The promise of democracy was threatened by a new corporate aristocracy. The Gilded Age built prosperity, but at the cost of fairness and stability. Roosevelt would step in to restore balance. Roosevelt wasn't an enemy of wealth. He was part of the elite. What he feared was the social explosion that unchecked power could ignite. He saw unrest among workers and farmers, and the rise of radical voices. Roosevelt believed reform was needed to prevent revolution. His aim was to mediate, not punish, to ensure justice for all, not just the powerful. The government, he insisted, must be an honest broker or risk losing legitimacy. His square deal was about fairness, not vengeance. Roosevelt's conservatism was pragmatic, use new tools to protect old institutions. He acted out of a deep fear of chaos, determined to save the system from itself. In 1902, Roosevelt chose the Northern Securities Company as his test case. This giant railroad trust, controlled by titans like J.P. Morgan, symbolized unchecked corporate power. Roosevelt's lawsuit under the Sherman Antitrust Act was a direct challenge to the old order. J.P. Morgan, used to private deals, tried to negotiate behind closed doors. Roosevelt refused. This was a matter for the courts, not backroom bargains. The Supreme Court sided with Roosevelt, ordering the trust dissolved. The economic impact was limited, but the symbolism was huge. Roosevelt proved that no corporation was above the law or the government. The showdown marked a turning point. The president, not Wall Street, set the rules. The days of private deals were over. Roosevelt's bold use of an old law sent a clear message. The federal government would no longer be a bystander. This victory was less about breaking up companies and more about establishing authority. Roosevelt's move redefined the presidency's power over industry. The Northern Securities case became a model for future government action. The balance of power had shifted. Roosevelt didn't just fight trusts, he reinvented the presidency. Before him, presidents were administrators, rarely speaking directly to the public. Roosevelt saw the office as a bully pulpit, a platform to shape opinion and rally support. He mastered the press, making his case in newspapers and speeches. By mobilizing public opinion, he pressured Congress and the courts to act. He bypassed Washington's power brokers, appealing directly to the people. This new activism made the executive branch central to national life. Roosevelt argued the president should act for the nation's good unless explicitly forbidden. This philosophy paved the way for the modern, powerful presidency. After Roosevelt, Americans expected their presidents to lead boldly. The 1902 anthracite coal strike tested Roosevelt's new approach. With winter looming and coal supplies dwindling, the nation faced crisis. Previous presidents sided with owners. Roosevelt saw the public as the true stakeholder. He summoned both sides to the White House, demanding compromise for the nation's sake. When owners refused, he threatened to seize the mines with federal troops, not to break the strike, but to run them for the public. The threat worked. Owners agreed to arbitration. Miners won better pay, and hours. Roosevelt had averted disaster and said a new precedent government could intervene when private disputes threatened the public. This was the square deal in action. Fairness for all, not just the powerful. The event redefined the government's role in labor disputes. Roosevelt's intervention showed that the public good came first. The square deal became his enduring promise. Roosevelt's presidency transformed American government and business. Federal power expanded. Regulation became the norm, not the exception. The old hands-off approach was gone. The question now was how, not whether, to regulate. Roosevelt created the model of the activist president, shaping public opinion and policy. Every president since has followed his lead. Business, too, adapted. Public opinion mattered, and welfare capitalism emerged. The relationship between government and industry became a negotiation, not a contest of dominance. Roosevelt didn't destroy big business, but he made it accountable. His true legacy was a shift in expectations. Government would protect the public from private excess. The presidency became the central institution of American life. Roosevelt made capitalism answer to democracy. Roosevelt's greatest gift was restoring balance, not waging war on business. He countered corporate dominance without tipping into state control. Power shifted. To government, to labor, and to the public. Roosevelt managed this rebalancing without breaking the system. His legacy is complex, a conservative reformer, an aristocrat for the common man. The questions he faced about government's role, corporate power, and fairness are still with us. Roosevelt taught that regulation and capitalism must coexist. True leadership means serving the public good, not just business or labor. He gave the economic engine a conscience and a set of brakes. Roosevelt's enduring lesson: government is the referee, ensuring the game is fair for all.